Working hard got me passed over for a promotion, and it might be doing the same for you. I was a manager for over 13 years and got passed over twice, and man, it stung. I finally landed a director role, but I wish I knew this back then. How hard you work has nothing to do with getting promoted. It's how you think. And all it takes is implementing a few simple shifts in thinking to get you to the next level. So in this video, I'm going to show you the 3 new mental models that I wish I had back then and how to use them to get your next promotion. So what is the first simple shift to get you promoted? Well, this first mental model flipped the way I approached my entire career, and it's the reason why I finally got promoted. Implementing this alone will get you your next pay raise. So how do you do that? Let me show you how this works. I want you to imagine 3 cups of marbles. Now, these marbles represent the different ways you can spend your time at work. And I want you to imagine every blue marble is your most important work. And every time you grab a blue one, it represents getting something done. And when you do, you move one step closer to a promotion guaranteed. So let's start with this first cup. Maybe, just maybe, there's a blue marble buried in here, but it's mostly reds and greens and yellows. These are your negative 10x tasks, or other words, just busy work. You look like you're doing something, but it gets you nowhere. And your second cup, this one's a mix. There's a couple of blue marbles, but you've got to dig in there. These are your 2x tasks. Sometimes they're helpful, but usually you're better off having someone else do these. And finally, the third cup, they're all blue. Every single marble. These are your 10x tasks. These are your highest value work that directly drive results, builds your reputation, and gets you promoted. So let me ask you, if the goal is to gather as many blue marbles as possible, which cup are you going to go back to every single time? Exactly, the one that's all blue. That's an easy answer. But here's the real question. If it's that obvious, why do most managers spend most of their time digging through the first 2 cups? Well, that's because without a proper way to sort through the marbles, every single one of them looks like this. So how can we filter out just the blue ones and make sure we're doing 10x work? You want to use the ICE filter to figure out which tasks are actually worth doing. Yeah, I know, ICE is not the friendliest of acronyms these days. This ICE stands for importance, consequence, and execution, but now it sounds more like someone's about to raid your workplace. Yikes. Here's how you're going to use this. Look at your to-do list and look at everything that eats up your time at work on a regular basis. For each one, ask 3 questions. Does this help move the business forward? This might be sales or marketing or increased customer service or maybe even a better product, but you have to really think this through to see if it moves the needle. When I got passed over early in my career, it was because I was bringing to my boss what urinal screens we should switch to in the bathroom because it had less splash for our customers. And I wondered why I didn't get picked. And then next, for consequence, this basically just means, would anything go critically wrong if I ignored it or I pushed it off? Learning to distinguish time-sensitive issues is a critical part of operating at the next level. And then finally, for execution, is this where my time is best spent? Or should somebody else do it? If it's a yes to all 3, that's a 10x task. Do it first. If it's a yes to 1 or 2, it's most likely a 2x and it can be done later, or most likely just delegated. And if it's a no to all 3, delegate it at all costs and don't let it come back to your plate. We only have so much time in the day, so treating your time and attention as something sacred cannot be overstated. And this is how you stop feeling behind and start operating like the one they already trust with bigger things. You're not catching up. You're taking over. And if this is already making you more confident you're going to take the next promotion, hit subscribe. But there's another critical mistake I made when I was trying to prioritize the direction of not just my own work, but the work of my team and what they were focusing on. And this mistake held me back for years, and it will do the same for you if you don't pay attention to it. So what is this critical mistake I made and how do you fix it? Well, the greatest example of this is actually the same mistake that permanently put an end to the infamous French leader Napoleon Bonaparte. I know you didn't sign up for a history lesson, just bear with me. In 1812, Napoleon had most of Europe under his thumb, but there was one rival he couldn't shake, and that was Tsar Alexander of Russia. So, driven by his ego to finally best him, he launched his boldest campaign yet. He marched over 600,000 troops deep into Russia, determined to outshine Alexander on his home turf. And at first, it worked. He won battles, he gained ground, but he overlooked a massive mistake. There was no supply line and there was no retreat plan. It was just momentum and pride. Then winter hit. Food ran out, horses died, and soldiers froze to death. What started as a power play ended in disaster, and Napoleon never recovered because of this. Napoleon didn't lose because he was too aggressive. He lost because he stopped thinking long term. So what does this have to do with getting promoted? Well, that's what happens when you lead without big picture thinking for you and your team. You need to think beyond monthly goals and start thinking in 5-year terms if you want to be pulled into leadership. As a younger manager, I made the mistake and it cost me a lot of time. It wasn't until years later that I started using this next mental model that I'm about to show you that finally got me thinking big picture and promoted. So how can you do this? Well, when you're operating at the next level, the question isn't what should I do first? It's what should I even be doing at all? Because the work and direction you have your team working on, that's what shapes your reputation and the path to the next level. So here's how I decide what even deserves a spot on my team's plate. I use 3 filters: altitude, strategy, and spending. Or in other words, ass. Oh God, I gotta work on these acronyms. Ugh. Anyways, here's how it works. Altitude is where you zoom out and look at where the company is trying to go over the next few years. What's the bigger vision? What's the direction leadership is steering towards? You need to be aligned with upper management at all costs. Then reverse engineer it. If that's the destination, then what are the major steps between there and where you are now? This gives your work a kind of scaffolding, so you're not just doing tasks, you're actually building towards something. And then for strategy, once the direction is clear, decide on the sequence. What needs to happen first to unlock progress? What creates momentum or clears blockers? Strategy isn't just about urgency or execution. It's about logically lining up the right moves in the right order so that you don't run into a disaster down the road that can destroy your career like Napoleon. And then finally, spending. Every team has limits: time, money, people, so treat your resources like cash in a crisis. Are you placing your best people on the highest leverage work? Are you stretching too thin? Or are you doubling up where it actually counts? Spending isn't just about saving, it's about investing wisely to create results that scale. Pick the right work for your team, show that you know what matters, and leadership will start paying attention to you. I didn't figure this out until way too late, and I wish I could have had those years back knowing what I now know. So you've got the filter, you know how to use it, and you'll move up way faster than I did. Thinking bigger picture is a game changer, but it's not the final level, because even the best strategy falls apart if you miss the final mental shift. This is what separates someone who runs a team from someone trusted to run the entire organization. So how do you get there? Let me show you how this works by looking at your local Starbucks. Your barista makes great coffee, and customers love them when they're working. But the franchise owner, they build systems, they train people, and they scale to 5 more locations without having to pour a single cup. They don't do the work, they design the machine. And who do you think gets paid more? The person making the coffee or the one figuring out how to run 6 shops without touching a cup? Here's where most people get stuck. They hold on to tasks, they stay central, and they just stay too essential. But smart leaders, they do the opposite. They scale, they build repeatable systems, they grow people, and they create leverage. And that's the move to get out of the day-to-day and into rooms where bigger decisions are made. So how can you do this? Well, here's how you're going to stop thinking like a barista and start thinking like a franchise owner. Pick one thing you do over and over every single week, whether it's status updates, check-ins, approvals, reports, whatever keeps landing on your plate. Look for the things within your work that feel inefficient. If it gives you the feeling of there's gotta be a better way of doing this, that's your sign. Then we're going to turn it into a system. We want to create a simple template, a checklist, or a workflow, but set up tools that keep it moving without your input. That way, you can make the rules once so no one has to guess again. The goal here is to make this system so simple that you can make a half-page or one-page PDF and hand it off without explanation, and it will get done perfectly. Then you want to stress test it. Could someone else step in tomorrow and run it without you? If not, you just keep tweaking until the answer is yes. You want to stack these every single week, every single month, just one repeatable system at a time. This is actually something I did really well from the start, and it was one of those things that set me apart from the rest. Most managers think being needed is leadership, but it's not. It's building machines that don't need you. And the best part is, now that you know this, you're already ahead of 90% of managers. You just need to go do it. But there is a trap. When you implement this, if you use one word when you speak to your team, it can immediately undo all of your progress. So go watch this next video and I'll show you how the word maybe is wrecking your credibility and what to say instead to guarantee your next promotion.